It's an honor on Modern Business TV to have the global leader on environment and development, Mr. Erik Solheim, Norwegian diplomat, and he's been around the world. When we say around the world, it actually means he knows quite a lot about sustainability development goals. People are talking about circular economy, so it will best to talk to him directly and hear what he has to say. So as we see, people are talking about all these fancy terms, but believe me, there used to be a huge divide between what developed economies perceive it as and what developing economies like India perceive it as. Where do you draw the line?
But that was so much the thing of the past, because in the past, if you wanted to develop, it needed to be based on coal, and you needed to destroy nature to a certain extent if you wanted to develop. And of course, nearly all Indians wanted development, so they were ready to accept coal and they were ready to accept some destruction of nature. But that was the 20th century. The 21st century is all about the win-wins. And the biggest proponent for win-win solution in India today is Prime Minister Modi himself, because he's rolling out green hydrogen mission, electric mobility mission, electric battery emissions, all these missions which are about how India can produce, create more jobs, get more prosperity, get everyone out of poverty, while at the same time taking much more better care of Mother Earth and fight climate change. So there is no choice any longer between economy and ecology. We can say, yes, thank you, we want both ecology and economy.
Brings us to the million-dollar question. Where do you draw the line? You want development, but at what cost? Environment is a very crucial. We can't destroy a habitat. What is happening around, we have talked a lot about, there's a stigma attached with plastic also. So looking at what the Western economy, they've already done. We are seeing economies like India and China going through. What word of advice would you have for them?
But you are absolutely right. There was a high cost in the past if you wanted to take care of the environment. But no any longer, because taking care of the environment is normally cheaper. If you move from coal into solar, because it's much better for Mother Earth, it's much better for breathing, I mean, the less pollution, everyone knows that. It is also much better for the economy of the company and the economy of India, because it's less costly. In the United States, it was just a research paper showing that in the United States, not only is solar cheaper than all new coal plants, it's even cheaper to roll out a new solar plant than to run an old coal plant. And sorry to say, both Europe, America, and to a certain extent India need to learn from China here, because China is now the world leader on every green technology, solar, wind, hydrogen, hydropower, high-speed rail, electric cars, whatever you can think of. China is in the lead. And that's because China saw an opportunity not just to take care of an environment, but to capture market, create industries, create value for the people of China.
10, 20 years down the line, where do you see ourselves?
I think India will catch up with China at high speed. China is, for instance, now the biggest solar power in the world. Very soon India will be the second biggest solar power in the world, and India will go big on wind power. I'm on the climate council in the state of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has a huge opportunity for wind power, to repower the old windmills, to make them more efficient, but to establish offshore wind between India and Sri Lanka. Gujarat is moving very, very fast in the same direction, but basically wherever you go in India now, you see the top leaders wanting to go green. Chief Minister Chauhan in Madhya Pradesh, for instance, told me that he wanted all panchayats in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Well, Madhya Pradesh is the same size as Germany, 80 million people. All the panchayats should be powered by solar in the future. So I see India now moving very, very fast. Still, there are some problems. Sometimes permissions take too long. There's too much bureaucracy. We need to be more efficient, but the direction is the right one.
It really brings us to a very interesting thing. The way he was rattling all the names, wish our ministers knew so much about India. Jokes apart, Erik, looking at the way forward, you said we are going quite ahead, quite right. But we've seen recently there were a couple of meetings regarding SDGs. Internationally, a lot was said at different fora. Do you think the calendar is still intact? Are we on track or are we behind schedule?
We are behind schedule, absolutely, but the development was very slow until it starts going very fast. That's where we are now, because in the United States, President Biden is making huge subsidies for renewable energies. In Europe, you see exactly the same. You see it in China and India. These are the four most important economies in the world, which will define the future on the planet. And when all of them are moving fast in the green direction, we will see fast development. But there is a certain arrogance in America and Europe. They don't see the enormous progress in a place like India. Sometimes you even see Westerners finger pointing to India. That's completely crazy. Look, US carbon emissions up to today are 25 times Indian carbon emissions per capita. So the United States has no role whatsoever to finger point to India, but the United States should work with India and see all the enormous potential for green developments in India.
Finally, I don't think anywhere in the world we've got a green party, believe me, and you've been heading that in Norway. A word of advice from your side to India. We've got so many small companies. There are big companies who've got compliance. They can meet the compliance because they have got deep pockets. Small companies are trying to break through the glass wall. I mean, in that scenario, what word of advice would you be giving them? Because they have to meet all the requirements and then see to it that they develop also. Is it really possible, riding both the horses together?
First, it's very important to remember that all the big companies in the world today were small quite recently. All the 10 biggest companies in the world, they're mainly Americans and some Chinese, that didn't exist in 1995. At the time, other companies were bigger. But people, like Amazon or Apple or Google, they didn't exist, but some pioneers brought these up. And I think many of these medium-sized companies in India today will be the big winners of the future. But for sure, India also needs Tata, Reliance, Adani, kind of the big companies in India. They are key for the green transformation, but so are many of these medium-sized companies who will be the big winners for the future. Sometimes more difficult to reinvent a big company than to grow a smaller one.
Eric, for talking to us. That was Mr. Eric Solheim. Despite his busy schedule, he took out time for this exclusive interview on Modern Presence TV. Thank you so much, sir. Much appreciated.